Hi everyone, welcome to this interview. My name's Imogen, I'm with the Macquarie University Future Students team, and this is my guest Emily. She's with the Postgraduate Admissions team. Thanks for coming in today, Emily.
Thanks, Imogen. Hi everyone.
So today we're just going to have a quick discussion about the process with postgraduate admissions and how the applications work, entry requirements, and all of the kind of frequently asked questions that applicants have when they're wanting to come and study postgraduate degrees with Macquarie University. So to get started, would you be able to tell us a little bit about the process to get started? If a student wants to sort of learn about the courses that we have and to apply, or even to find out what the entry requirements are, how do students kind of get started on that process for postgrad degrees?
Yeah, sure. So the first point of call for students is the Course Finder webpage that has all of the information students need to know about our postgraduate degrees in terms of the course structure, what they need to apply, and the entry requirements.
Great, yeah, so that sort of is the central point that people start in, and they can kind of get all of the general information about everything in that particular place, and that's the Macquarie University Course Finder.
Exactly right. So the university publishes our entry requirements and the information about how to apply with the instructions and a link to the application website. So it's easy to find from the Macquarie homepage.
So a lot of applicants are very interested to know how to actually get started with applying for a course and where they can kind of get started on that part of the process. How do they go about doing that?
Yeah, sure. So on the Course Finder website, there is a list for each degree for entry requirements. We recommend students hop in to that section of the website and look at the requirements for that degree. So there's a number of different entry points for most degrees, and we need to be able to look at their previous qualifications, potentially their work experience, to see where they fit best. Students need to hop on to the website and have a look at what's required.
When a student has actually applied for a course, is there a certain amount of time that they should be expecting to wait when they're sort of expecting an outcome? How long does it take for the applications to get processed?
Yeah, good question. It depends on the course and the application method. So our courses have two main application methods. One is through UAC, the Central Admissions website, and some are direct to Macquarie. So the particular course will have that in the How to Apply tab with a link explaining which method is for the particular course. For UAC courses, where students apply through UAC, it tends to take 2 to 3 weeks for an outcome to come back for students. And for direct Macquarie applications, it's usually a little bit quicker, so around that 2-week mark. But for our competitive programs, so some of our courses are very competitive and they can take a little bit longer to assess. So we always encourage students to check in with our Future Students team if they have any questions about the progress of their application. The main ones that take a lot longer than normal would be something like the Doctor of Physiotherapy or the competitive psychology programs. They take a lot longer to assess. The faculty assess all of the applications after applications have closed. But generally for most courses it is that 2 to 3 weeks.
Great. And so you mentioned that there were the UAC applications and the direct applications. What's the difference between those two? What sort of things should the students be looking at when they're applying through UAC versus direct to Macquarie?
Yeah, sure. So it just depends on the course and what the requirements are for the course and what the faculty ask for. So most have similar entry requirements and documents required. So everyone is going to need to provide a transcript of their previous studies. Usually completed bachelor is sort of an absolute minimum for most of our courses. The UAC process means that students are able to apply for multiple universities in one go, which is useful for some students. And then the direct application comes to us, so it's a bit quicker, but you are still able to apply for multiple courses at the same time, which is really good. So there's not that much difference between the two.
Great. So it sounds like the whole application process is actually pretty straightforward, and it just really depends on what the degree is, and all of that information can be found in the How to Apply section in the Course Finder page.
Exactly right. So the main thing is that students hop on to the How to Apply tab and check all of the requirements for that particular program. So some of our courses require something like a personal statement. It'll specify in that how to apply tab if they need to provide a personal statement, or there's supplementary forms for some courses. So it's important that they have a check of that list just to make sure that they're able to gather all that documentation before they apply.
Wonderful. So I think a really big question that a lot of students have is fees. So obviously Commonwealth supported places are a big component of undergraduate study, but at a postgraduate level, not all courses have Commonwealth supported places for all students or at all. Can you give us a little bit of information about how all that works for postgrad study at Macquarie?
Yeah, sure. So fees information is also on that Course Finder webpage, so students can quickly see what the fees are for particular courses. Some courses just have Commonwealth supported places. Some courses have both, a mixture of Commonwealth supported and domestic fee paying, and some are just domestic fee paying. So there's a broad range, so it really depends on the course. Commonwealth supported places are often competitive, so but it does depend on the degree. So it's important to have a look on the website and see what options there are for the particular course you're interested in. Commonwealth supported places that are competitive, particularly something like the Juris Doctor, are based on academic merit. So we will consider students that have a WAM over 75 in their completed bachelor degree for Commonwealth supported place, but they are competitive, so it's something that's considered. For some of our courses, the only option is Commonwealth supported place, so if the students meet the entry criteria, then that's what they will receive, which is great. Some courses have domestic fee paying places, so that's what is available for students.
Great. And so for those mixed courses where there's the domestic fee paying and there's Commonwealth supported places where it's a bit cheaper, you mentioned that it's based on sort of the competitiveness of the applicant's application. Is there sort of a guide on how students should be going about applying to ensure that they provide all the correct information so you guys can assess that properly?
Yeah, so the main thing is that students provide all of their previous study information so that we can assess all of their prior qualifications. Any of the courses have all of that information on the How to Apply tab. If the course is competitive, it will explain what we need from students so that we can consider them for CSP.
So a lot of students, when they're wanting to apply for these courses, will see that in the entry criteria for some of these courses, they list multiple entry points for some of the degrees. So some might have a 2-year duration and others might have 1 single year duration. Can you kind of run through what that means when students are applying?
Yeah, sure. So Macquarie is really flexible that a lot of our degrees have multiple admission points, and what that means is that we're able to assess their application based on their previous study in a related area or previous work experience in a related area potentially, and we can give them a shorter duration degree. So something like a 2-year master's could be reduced to 1 year if students have that relevant experience and previous study. So in the application assessment process, we look at students' previous degrees and give them the best outcome possible. So the shortest degree duration, and also if they're not eligible for the course that they've applied for, we're also able to give alternative offers. So something like a graduate certificate or a graduate diploma is also available for a lot of our courses. So we can admit students in those courses as an alternative pathway starting point for them to progress into a master's.
Great, and in those kinds of instances where a student may not quite be eligible for the master's directly and you offer them a graduate diploma, when they complete the graduate diploma and then want to later apply for the master's degree, what happens with those units that they've already completed in that course prior to the master's?
Yeah, so students that have completed a prior postgraduate degree in a relevant area can be considered for recognition of prior learning so that we can decrease the length of that master's degree for them.
If we go back to fees for a moment, a lot of students are sort of obviously concerned about the cost of university, and so there's often, questions about things like scholarships or, assistance with fees. What kind of scholarships are available for postgrad study at Macquarie?
Yeah, sure. So Macquarie has a lot of different scholarship options. It's important students hop on the website and have a look on, if they just search on the Macquarie website for scholarships, that'll take them through to a scholarship tool where they can search based on their personal circumstances to see if any of those suit their needs. The main thing with fees, we've talked a lot about Commonwealth supported places and domestic fee paying places. Students are able, provided they meet the eligibility criteria, to defer their fees to a fee help loan. So students are encouraged to hop on the website to understand what that means. The Study Assist government website provides a lot of information for students about eligibility criteria, what it means for them to be able to receive a loan, but it means they don't have to pay anything if they are eligible to commence their studies, which is really exciting.
In terms of entry requirements for students, so obviously you mentioned that a bachelor's degree is sort of the minimum requirement for a lot of postgraduate studies. What happens for students who may not have completed a bachelor's degree, or they have professional work experience but don't quite meet the requirements based on their previous studies? What kind of happens there?
Yeah, good question, and we get this one quite often. It depends on the degree. So some of our degrees, the completed bachelor and a particular mark is the minimum entry requirement. Some of our degrees are more flexible, particularly for students that have work experience. For particularly our graduate certificates as a pathway into a master's program. So it's important if students are in that situation, they hop on the website, have a look at the entry requirements and contact the Future Students team if they have any further questions.
Great. So after students have applied and they've received an offer to study with us at Macquarie, what are the next steps moving forward? How do they sort of go about accepting that offer and getting started with their studies with us?
Yeah, so once students have applied, waited that 2 to 3 weeks for assessment, and they're lucky enough to receive an offer, we will send them an email with information on how to accept their offer, or if it's a course applied through UAC will get in touch with the student and explain to them they've received an offer with a link through to the information about how to accept and what to do next. So the main thing is they hop on and accept their offer and go through the process to complete their enrolment.
In terms of students who might be interested in studying a high degree research degree, what should they be doing in terms of finding out information about that process, entry requirements, how to apply? Where should they find that information?
Sure, so the research students have a specialist team that can help them with their questions about applying. So their best way to get in touch with them is to give them a call or email them, so hdrconnect@mq.edu.au. They will be able to assist with any questions that students have about applying for research studies.
Great. And is there a particular place on the website they might be able to find some information as well?
Yeah, so from the Macquarie University homepage, there is a research section up on the website, so students can go through and find information there.
Do you have any tips as a member of the postgraduate admissions team for how an applicant might make their application the most competitive it can be?
Yeah, sure. So the main thing is that students hop onto the How to Apply tab and check all of the requirements that they need to provide, all the documents that they need to provide to show they meet the entry requirements for their degree. So things like English language proficiency, they need to check that they meet that criteria, their transcripts for their previous studies, any resume or reference letters if work experience is relevant to them. Making sure they provide all of that documentation so that we can assess their application quickly and we can assess them for the shortest duration possible for their degree. So students that are able to receive a shorter duration, we will give that as part of the process. And if possible, we can give students an alternative offer if their previous study doesn't meet their entry requirements. We can look at something similar that might be a pathway for them to move through into their preferred course.
And you mentioned the English language proficiency requirement. So for students who might have an overseas qualification and so might need to meet English language requirements in a slightly different way to students who've studied in Australia before, how does that kind of work for those students?
Yeah, sure. So there are a lot of different courses, tests, life experiences that meet our English language requirements at Macquarie. So students are encouraged to hop onto the website. It's linked from that How to Apply tab with through to the webpage that explains all the different ways students can meet the English language requirements at Macquarie.
So for a lot of postgraduate students, they may have other responsibilities in their life. They may be working or have families and need a little bit more flexibility when they're studying. How flexible are the degrees at Macquarie at a postgrad level?
Great question, Imogen. So in terms of flexibility, there are a lot of different options for students. We've talked about the shorter duration of degrees, which is really helpful for students that are wanting to get a qualification quickly that fits in with their other commitments. There's also the options of external study, so completing study without having to come on campus. There's evening classes for students that work full time. There's the city campus for a few of our degrees where students can complete their studies in person but in the city after work. And students have flexibility to complete one unit a session or full time depending on what suits them at a particular point in time. So lots of options.
Great, and so they can change between part-time and full-time study for most degrees throughout their studies?
Yeah, exactly right. Depends on the degree, but most are very flexible in terms of switching whatever suits them at that particular session.
Wonderful. And if a student wants to find a bit more information about how the units in a particular degree are offered, where can they find that information?
Yeah, good question. It's important students have a look at the course structure in that course finder page, and that gives them a rundown of the different units that are available. And through from that web page, they can click through into the handbook, and that lists all of the units, when they're offered, the different options, so whether they're offered evening, external, which session, so students can sort of plan what they're going to study to start from.
Thank you so much for having a chat today, Emily. It's been a pleasure discussing the postgraduate admissions process at Macquarie University, and I hope that we've been able to provide some sort of detailed answers to some of the more frequently asked questions that a lot of applicants have had regarding study with us at Macquarie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Connor. I'm alumni of Macquarie University.
Hi everyone, my name is Faraday. I'm from the postgraduate admissions team.
Yeah, so today we're going to be going through some of the postgraduate questions that you guys have asked, just to make sure it's extremely clear what you need to do moving forward. So I suppose we'll jump right into it. The first question we have here is from Emma, and they were just asking if they're wanting to come to Macquarie University, particularly to go into postgraduate studies, where can they go to look for information about entry requirements, course information, things like that?
So this was touched upon by my colleague Emily earlier, but Course Finder is your place to go. So if you just go to courses.mq.edu.au, it'll have all our application methods, the entry requirements and the course structure. So at Macquarie here, we've got two application methods, the main one being through the University Admissions Centre and also directly to Macquarie, depending on the course that you choose.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So the next question we have is from Claire. She said, I find that some courses have multiple durations and entry points. So she's just wondering what that means. And yeah, me personally, I've seen that the Master of Accounting actually has 3 different durations. So yeah, how does that work?
Okay, thanks Connor. So the Master of Accounting is a perfect example with the 3 different admission points. So most of our courses have 3 zones. We've got the foundation zone. And what that is if you don't have the foundations in a relevant discipline area, and then we've got your core zone, which is the compulsory elements, and also the flexible zone. The flexible zone gives breadth to the course and also gives you electives to choose from. In terms of multiple admission points and entry, we take a look at your prior transcripts, your educational background, your previous work experience to determine which is the most relevant point for you. So for example, if you didn't have an accounting background and you've applied here, then you would start off doing the whole 2-year duration of the Master of Accounting program. But if you had some experience in accounting, you don't want to touch upon the foundations because you might be repeating that same content. What we'll do is then have a look at that and give you an entry into possibly core zone only if you had a high WAM. So that's how that works.
Okay, cool. So for example, if I'd someone who had done, say, a science undergraduate degree and I wanted to go into accounting, obviously I didn't have accounting foundations, so I would most likely go into one of the longer duration courses, right?
Yes, that's correct. And also with accounting itself, if you were a high achiever in your science degree, then you may actually do the foundation and the core and just skip out on the flexible zone. So that also can reduce the duration of your program.
Cool. Okay, perfect. So now we have another one from Jeff. Jeff's just asking, what roughly is the turnaround time for an application? So I remember Imogen and Emily touched on it before, that there's a UAC application and a direct application. So do they vary, or how long does it take?
Yes, so depending on the course that you choose, it can vary. So generally we like to do assessments within 2 to 3 weeks. So if you've got all your documents and it's in on time, UAC does a pre-assessment,
Okay.
and then they will send that through to us, and we will generally take between 2 to 3 days to do the assessment ourselves,
Okay.
and then you'll get an outcome. With UAC, we do rolling offers on a rolling basis, so offers go out on every Thursday of the week. Also, with the direct applications, we do tend to get them out a little bit quicker. So my team will do the assessments, and if it needs to be referred to the faculty, we'll do that.
Yeah.
In terms of the turnaround time, it can also take longer. So the programs that'll take longer is our competitive programs.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because these programs are quite professional and accredited and competitive. So they have like an earlier closing date, which is 31st of October.
Yeah.
And once they're all in on time, the departments tend to rank the applicants on merit and then give offers on that basis.
Okay.
So those competitive programs such as psychology or physiotherapy might get released a bit later.
Okay. Yeah, I also noticed that for the Doctor of Physiotherapy in particular, they actually have only a Session 2 intake.
Yes.
So they only have one intake per year, but it's around mid-year. So what happens if someone wasn't going to finish their undergraduate degree until the end of the first semester, but the applications close like earlier in the year? How do they go ahead?
Okay. I definitely encourage students to apply on time. You don't want to miss the deadlines. So what we do have here at Macquarie is conditional offers. So if you're planning on completing your degree prior to the commencement of Session 2, then and if you were successfully eligible to get an offer, we'll give you a conditional offer, and then you'll be able to apply for that, and once you've satisfied the conditions of your offer, you'll be able to continue and enrol.
Okay, so even though they hadn't actually finished their program when they applied, they can apply, and then the faculty and the admissions team will have a look at what they've done, and then sort of give them a conditional offer if they like what they see, and then assuming they go ahead and actually finish it, it's all good.
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So yeah, we've got another one here from Teresa. They were essentially asking, are Commonwealth supported places, or as it may be referred to on the website, CSP, are they offered at a postgraduate level at all?
Yes, so most of our Commonwealth supported places are offered at undergrad level, but some of our postgrad courses do offer CSPs.
Yeah, okay.
This information is available on Course Finder, so it's good to have a look and see if the program you're applying for does have a Commonwealth supported place.
Yeah.
And I guess the difference with the Commonwealth supported place as opposed to a fee help place is that, the CSP places are subsidised by the government, so they will pay for a small amount of the course and you have to pay for the student contribution, whereas the fee help, the domestic full fee paying places, you're liable for the whole contribution for the course.
So you'll find if there's a CSP offer, it's generally a lot cheaper than a domestic fee.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so we've got another one here from Jackie. She's essentially saying, is fee help available? Any sort of support for postgraduate studies? Do they have to pay everything up front, or can they put it on a loan?
So you can put it on a loan. So if you were to receive a CSP offer, we've got HEX help. And
just like undergrad.
Just like an undergrad.
Yeah.
And if you had a full fee paying place, then you may be eligible for fee help. So it's best to have a look on the Study Assist website to determine your eligibility for those. And in terms of how do you go about applying for the fee help, it's all part of our offer. So once you do get an offer here at Macquarie, we'll send you out an outcome letter with detailed instructions, and you just hop online, follow the links and complete a form.
Yeah. So there's no separate, they don't need to go on to Study Assist to actually apply for the loan. It's all built into the application or the enrolment process at Macquarie.
Yes, that's correct.
Awesome, too easy. Okay, so we've got another one now from Jason. They're just saying, can you let us know how to apply in general and how competitive it is in general? For degrees?
So generally most of our postgrad coursework degrees, we don't have a quota on them. So in terms of how to apply, hop online to Macquarie's Course Finder website, and determining on the course that you choose, it will determine whether you apply via UAC or whether you apply directly here to Macquarie University. Our applications do open on the 4th of September, so get in early. It's always good to know that you've secured a place here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Jason's just sort of asked a follow-up to that with regards to, once he goes onto Course Finder and sees all of the documentation that he needs, do they need to be certified by JP? Do they need to send in the physical copies, or how does that work?
Yeah, we just need a copy of your academic transcript. It doesn't need to be certified, and and if you do have relevant prior work experience, please provide a copy of your CV, because that will determine the reduced duration entry points if you're eligible for those. So have a look at the how to apply section, and depending on the course, it may tell you if you need a supplementary form or not.
Yeah, okay. So we've just got one quick last question. We've got Linda, who's just asked, if my application wasn't successful, would you suggest applying again later or providing alternative documents? Like, where can they get more information about that?
So if you weren't successful, it's always good we will give you a reason as to why you weren't successful. So if it's a competitive course, it may be that you've missed out this round, but we'd always encourage you to apply again in subsequent years. But if it was that you didn't meet the cut-off, there's alternative ways. So you might be eligible for a graduate certificate, and then you can, articulate into the program of your choice.
So I know sometimes when I have been working, it's a good idea if someone is unsure about why they didn't receive an offer to just give us a call at Future Students.
Yeah.
So, 9850 6767, press number 1, that'll come through to our team, and then we can sort of communicate with admissions to see what's going on and give you just, a little bit more understanding of why you wouldn't have received the offer. That pretty much wraps it up, guys. We really appreciate you sticking here and asking the questions. If you do have any other questions that weren't touched on in our session, definitely just go to the bottom of the page. You'll see there's an Ask an Expert live chat section. So just click on that and ask a question. Thanks.
Thank you.